Hi everyone, my name's Angela. Welcome to my channel, Homeschool with Angela. Today I'm going to be unpacking a question that seems to be that I see quite often on groups and even from mainstream parents. And it's got to do with what's happening with my 9-year-old. Let's call it 9 turning 10 or even a 10-year-old. There seems to be a lot of battle of wills, and parents seem to be at a stage where they want to give up. And it's like, they've come this far and it's just not working anymore. So there's when you start, I just want to say when you start parenting, never mind even homeschooling, is that you are aware people have been talking about the terrible twos and about the teen years, and I've got my own views about those particular phrases, but today I want to specifically talk about the frustrations that are happening around your 9-10-year-old. And I think it's because of a lack of information out there that parents are taken by surprise, or they're just not equipped to handle this stage. So I just want to say, if you are in that situation and you have a 9-year-old and you're busy battling, or a 10-year-old, you're not alone, and it's not unusual, it's not something abnormal, it's quite normal. And I want to say it's quite good, because developmentally, a child goes through different phases, right? They have certain milestones, about when your child was a baby, and they say, just to look out for the different milestones. And I think if you're already more prone homeschooling, then you were already maybe saying, I keep that at the back of my head, but I'm not going to really be bothered about when those milestones are happening. It's sort of like a knowledge that you keep at the back, but you don't want to compare your child to the rest. And homeschooling is really just a continuation of that. We choose to homeschool because you don't want to compare your child to everybody else. You are just going at their pace, and you're busy getting to know what works for you and what works for your family and what works for your child. And just as a side note, if you have just started, that often changes because they grow up and they change their interests, and I think it's an ongoing journey together with your child of finding suitable resources. But if you're following an eclectic approach to homeschooling. But let's get back to what's happening at 9. So a child goes through different phases, and it's good, right? You don't want your 5-year-old still behaving dependently like a 2-year-old, right, from the toddler stage. So you have your toddler stage, you have your preschool stage, then you have like your foundation phase where they're going, it could be, I don't want to really put age to it, but if you look at your schooling system, it can be anything from 5, 6 to about 8 or 9. And there's something happening in that age group where you are laying the foundations, and it's very concrete. So sometimes you may find that a child learns to read very quickly, and so they speed up, but they will hit a bit of a barrier later on because the work naturally becomes more abstract, but they are not reading-wise. They might be able to they could read the work, but mentally, developmentally, they're not there yet to be able to do the abstract thinking. And so my advice always to parents is rather look for more enrichment, things to do that's still within the concrete phase, so that they're not feeling frustrated. But that is a different topic. But anyway, so now we finished with the foundation, and your 9-year-old is busy edging its way out of that phase into, schools call it the intermediate phase, but let's say your preteens, and your tween phase. And so this is really, just remember that they've never been here before. And so there is a lot of moving moving out of a previous phase into something new. And so it's not just academics, it's their whole being that they're obviously edging their way into. And most times you find that there's this pushing the boundaries, right? Parents, we can see that they're busy pushing your boundaries that you've set before. And so that's where the battle of wills happen, because up to now this has been your discipline, or this has been your boundaries, and now they're busy pushing against that all the time. And on the one hand, they need to, right? This is what they're busy moving into another phase. So those boundaries are not going to. It feels restrictive, and and then maybe the way you've been speaking to them, is irritating, and then you get the eye rolls, and you get the bit of attitude, and you think, oh, where did that come from? My child never used to look at me like that, or so. Their whole being is now going into another phase, and they've never been there before, and they're busy pushing. They feel like they need to progress, right? They need to move beyond what is now in front of them. And so if we as parents keep the same operating system, you're going to have a lot of battles. You're going to have a lot of friction in the house. And it's not just academics, but obviously it's going to spill over to that as well. So how I've navigated it with my own children, and what I've seen, is to handle it with grace. I've got another video about homeschooling with grace if you want to check it out. But I think it's more like going with them with understanding, and just re-looking at your boundaries, and maybe the way you speak, and maybe what you've set in place before, and allowing a bit more negotiation with your child, who is now, it's a good thing that they want to progress, that they want to become more independent, they've just got more things to think about, they've got their own opinion, and that is what we want. This is like it's something natural and good. It's just how to navigate it so that it doesn't cause complete chaos in the house. And so I would, from a parent's point of view, just look at where are those battle points, and being a believer, I just completely rely on the Holy Spirit to help me to see where do I need wisdom in this area, and help me to change the way I operate, to be able to allow this child to develop naturally into more just growing up and exploring the world. The circle just becomes a bit wider from you, but you still want them to hear the voice of their teacher, right? So it's now, whereas before, like from when they were babies, you were holding on to them, so you were taking them with you, and then when they were toddlers, you were holding their hands so they wouldn't toddle over, and preschool years, you were like, follow me, let me show you, and they were, or many times they were far ahead, and you had to keep reining them in, but they would come quickly back to you, and you would be able to teach them what they see and experience. And so this tween years is you're starting to walk alongside, and the pace might change a bit, and many times it could be an interest change as well, like my child was always interested in this, and now they're not anymore, and that's okay. They might want to explore something else, and from a child development side, they're going to be able to see past themselves. So like the previous phase is everything was very concrete. So let's talk about the homeschooling side. So So many times the work, if you are now working systematically and you may be in grade 4-ish, finishing grade 3, grade 4, the work changes up as well. And sometimes if you are specifically following a mainstream course line, the work becomes abstract quite quickly. And interestingly enough, if you're going to be tested or assessed within a phase, they do it grade 6 to like whatever was supposed to happen in grade 4, 5, and 6. So many times when you hit grade 4, if you are following a certain school system, the jump is really big. And sometimes the workload could be, well, sometimes I see a lot with the mainstream parents, is that the workload is just so much and they're battling to make this transition. But with homeschooling, we can ease into it. So I want to say, if you find that the work itself is a little bit more, if the jump is just too big, then just take your time a bit. It really does, the child really does catch up within phases. The same as what I've always been saying with the foundation phase. If your child is not ready to learn to read at 6 and 7, it's fine. You know, 8 and 9, 9 or 10, it will happen. And we don't have to feel pressurized, because if we've chosen to homeschool, then you also have that freedom to just work according to your child's pace. And so in this next phase, the work does change. It's almost like they are now having to think around corners, or they're having to apply the foundations, the basics that they've learned, and now apply it into almost an imaginary situation that the previous phase, they can't imagine something beyond themselves. That's why it's called concrete. But the intermediate phase is, how do I take this information that I've learned now and apply it into a situation? And that takes a bit of practice, but you'll find that your grade 6s are well, if they've had time to get the basics and get practice at this type of thinking, then they're quite able to do it. It's like they've caught up by, say, grade 6 level. So just bear that in mind. If you are following a specific age-related academic course, then maybe just have a bit of grace as your child is busy transitioning the way they're having to think. I always call it like around corners, because you can't see what's around the corner, but the answer is there. So, and from a behavioral point of view, just check how you are still speaking to your child. Are you still speaking like how's your operating system? Is it still how you've been always talking to them the last, from when they're 6, 7, 8 years old? Sometimes they're going to have to change a bit, and their views count. So allow them. You want them to think about something, right? But teach them how to do it respectfully. You can say, you can have your opinion, but this is how I'd like you to present it. Not with a huff and a puff and whatever it is. So give them some social skills in how to communicate with you in their new, let's call it the phase of independence. And don't be surprised when things are changing from how they always used to be, and saying like, like what's wrong with my child? It's okay. They're busy growing up. So I think what I'll do, I'll carry on doing a few tween videos, because it's quite important that we don't allow the frustrations from our side and their sides to really hamper the homeschooling journey. And it's a wonderful, wonderful phase, because they've just got their own ideas now in a different way. And you want them to really, you want to validate how they are thinking, and to think critically about what they are hearing. And their world, up to now, they're just able to grasp a little bit further than themselves. So it's a wonderful, wonderful phase to enjoy. And I hope this has been benefit for you. Please leave any comments. If you've got any questions, you can just drop a comment. Or if you've got some tips that have worked for you, we'll always benefit from that as well. So feel free to mention. And just remember to like and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.